The solar eclipse is on December 4th. It's in Sagittarius, and so we are going to be talking about how we can change fear into curiosity. It's all coming up. Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the solar eclipse on December 4th. It's at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. We are going to do an overview to see what this eclipse has in store for us, and then we're going to go sign by sign. There's going to be timestamps in the description so you can jump to your sign. Now, I am doing tropical astrology, and it is a good idea to look at your rising sign or your ascending sign, as well as your sun sign, and combine that information. If you don't know your rising sign, there is a link in the description with a PDF of how to get your chart, or you can just email me and I'll send you a copy of your chart. And just a quick note, I write books, and my new book, Chinese Astrology 2022, Year of the Water Tiger, is out now. It's on Amazon if you want to check that out. I also do readings, and so if you want details and information, just send me an email. Okay, let's talk about what eclipses are and the energy that they bring, as well as looking at the chart. So a solar eclipse happens 2 or 3 times a year, and it's where everything just lines up perfectly. And so we have 3 components in the solar eclipse, and that is the sun, which is representing your sense of self, your ego, how you want to express yourself in the world. The moon, which is your emotions and what you need, and then the earth, which is all the things you know how to do and all the things that you have to do. So in a solar eclipse, what happens is the moon is between the earth and the sun, and from the perspective of being on the earth, the moon is so big that it blots out the sun. Now, that is that emotions and needs become paramount. They become so important, and the reason that is because there's something not being fulfilled. And so oftentimes either you're initiating a change, or if you are white knuckling through this, not receiving what you need, then the universe will initiate a change. Now, about a week before the eclipse, or even sooner than that, you may have an inkling of what needs to change. You might start having thoughts of, I wish I had a different job, I wish I didn't live here, or that you start to see some rumblings and maybe some instability at your job or instability in your relationship. And so you can react in one of 2 ways. You can move towards this problem and say, okay, well, what do I want, and how can I implement that? Or you may pull away from it and say, I hope this doesn't happen. And when you're doing that second one, it's important to recognize that sometimes we do pull away because we don't feel ready, but the universe may think that we're ready anyway, and so the universe may insist. But it's also possible that if you're not ready, this may not be an exact hit of this eclipse, and so that you might get a subsequent eclipse that is a stronger hit to your chart. So then when you're pulling away, it's more of you're recognizing that something will need to change, but that it's not changing yet. In this video, we're going to be talking about where it's hitting in an area of your life. So we're not, I don't have your chart in front of me, so I don't know if it's hitting a planet. So when we talk about the area of life that it could be impacting for you, then you can say, okay, I know that some changes are going to happen. And then if it's actually hitting a planet in your chart, then the changes are, they could be bigger. If it is something that is not hitting exactly, then you're more getting a message about what's coming up. Now, I do want to remind you that your chart is a GPS. It is telling you what's ahead, but things are not set in stone. Just like any GPS, it could tell you that there's traffic, 3 miles ahead, but by the time you get there, the traffic's cleared. And that can happen with your chart as well, but it's more because you've decided to make some changes or adjustments in your life, and that's what clears the traffic. So now it's also, you have to recognize that a lot of these things are very external that are happening. And that means that the universe isn't asking you to be good or do certain things or to win that safe passage. The universe, I mean, it's just, things just happen in our lives, and we can come to these events and we can grow from them, or, we could get really angry and then close down, and that's not what we want to do. So looking at this as we're on a path, and sometimes on that path there's traffic, there's obstacles, there's detours, and that's part of, well, the adventure. And that's really very, very much what this particular solar eclipse is about. So eclipses happen at regular intervals, and so one of the things you can do is look back in time to find a previous solar eclipse that was like this, or a lunar eclipse that was like this, and ask yourself what happened then, because this could have some similar results. So in December 2002, we had a solar eclipse of a very similar nature as this one. I know that's a long time to look back, but if you had something significant happen around December 2002 or the few months after that, then you could be feeling the impact from this eclipse. Now, we had a lunar eclipse in June 2012 of a very similar nature. Now, a lunar eclipse is different because that is more that you are making an internal change rather than an external thing happening. But if you made some shifts around then you may be affected by this eclipse. And then still more recently, back in September 2016, we had an energy that was at 90 degrees of this eclipse, and that was 9 degrees of Virgo. And so that solar eclipse, if that affected you, then you may be doing some energy with this eclipse. So nothing in our lives changes until we do something different. And the universe knows this, and we know this. And yet, because we're having this human experience with so many things that we have to do and so many distractions, that we can get into a rut. And so the universe is actually, it's not targeting us, it's here to help us. And so the universe creates change for us, bumps in the road, detours, different options for us, so that we're going to experience more and grow more. Now, you might be a person who really likes big change, that you're ready to jump in and just really just take it on. And that's quite possible too if you are Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is going to be more open to change. But if you have, planets in other signs, which of course you probably do, you may be more fixed in your thinking or more pragmatic. Sometimes pragmatism doesn't allow us to, think about changes because we think, well, I'm doing it the most efficiently that I can. I already know how to do this, so I might as well do it the same way as before. But the universe really wants to see change. All of nature changes, the seasons change. It's not good for us not to change. And so that is, looking at maybe, and, here I am, the broken record, asking yourself really good questions. Is this the best way to do things? Is there an alternative? Is there something else I should be doing? And listening for that answer. Now, if you're not that comfortable with change, then one of the best things to do is tiny habits, small incremental changes where you can just kind of ratchet things up. And that is to take something very small, maybe about, your diet or your daily routine or your route to work or something, and just change it up. Just just tiny little things. Now, the Sagittarius energy of this eclipse wants something big. But if you're doing the square, that 90-degree angle, you may be able to do that Virgo Pisces axis, which does say that you can make changes through little micro changes. But overall, eclipses mean that you're doing a spiritual growth spurt, that there's something happening where you get to grow spiritually. And I do want to point out and remind you that you're an eternal soul, that you are riding around in this body, this avatar, in this gigantic, video game that we're all in. And that means that you can take some chances for personal growth. And I don't mean, bungee jumping or, doing something really, bad with your rent money with crypto or something like that. I mean, taking chances to meet new people, to put your creative work out into the world, to trust yourself and to believe in yourself. Those types of risks are really important to take. Now, when we look at Sagittarius specifically, we are dealing with kind of universal energy that says that we're looking for the maximum amount of information that is truthful, and we're having a really hard time determining what is truth and what is useful and what is not. Back in the old days, pre-internet, when we had a Sagittarius eclipse, there would have been a great desire for people to collect as much information as possible. And that was a difficult thing to do. That meant talking to a lot of people, finding publications, periodicals, things like this. But nowadays that whole script is flipped. And so now this Sagittarius solar eclipse could be about how much information you're taking in and not giving yourself enough time to process it, or not feeling like you have a way to process the information where you could sort out what's true and what's not. Now, the reason that we do collect information or process information is so that we can make informed decisions. And so underneath this desire to get the truth is usually a desire to make some sort of informed choice. And so you may be faced with a decision. And when we go sign by sign, the position of the eclipse could tell you what area of life you need to make that decision in. But you may already have an inkling of where you feel stuck or where you feel you have more potential and that you do need to make some sort of choice. But, I just did that whole thing about choice, so I don't have to rehash that. Now, another thing about the Sagittarius eclipse is that Sagittarius is about having an opinion about something, but it also means that others will have varying opinions. So Sagittarius rules foreign things as well as this, treasure trove of knowledge. So it's as we go into this more fractured world where we get groups of people with very strong opinions that could differ from ours, it is very important that we continue to engage in conversation. And I know that it's getting increasingly difficult for two reasons. One, because, the media has us so polarized, but also because as people get into their particular interest, the language and vocabulary that is associated with that is so specialized that at some point it will be hard to communicate with each other because we just don't have the same vocabulary. So if we can keep the lines of communication open and we start with family members who might differ in opinions, and then neighbors and the community and our friends, and so that we can, stay as part of the worldwide community rather than being isolated, that's what this eclipse is suggesting. Now, this is the last of the Sagittarius Gemini eclipses for this series, and so we're not going to have another series for 9 years. So we're going to move into the Taurus Scorpio eclipses, as we already started with the lunar eclipse a couple of weeks ago. So this is our last chance to do this. And then we will come together again for another set of these in 9 years, and we will see how much we have maintained those open lines of communication. So Sagittarius, oddly enough, is also about adventure, exploration of the world, and beyond. And so we are exploring both philosophically and intellectually, but this is also about the potential for travel or interacting with people who are from other places in the world. Whenever we talk about eclipses and the universe having a hand in pushing us forward, there can be fear. And it's interesting because Sagittarius is not a fearful sign. It is one that looks for adventure and is, more willing to jump out of the airplane. So, but you may not be Sagittarius, or even if you are Sagittarius, you may still be learning how to, embrace adventure. And so if you're feeling fear or apprehension or a little bit of trepidation about any of this, look for curiosity. Curiosity is the cure for fear. Curiosity is what says, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder how I will react. I wonder if this is going to go well, or if I'm going to need to do some things to get it to go better. So being curious is the solution for fear. So our bottom line is, the more things that you do different around the time of the eclipse, the better your outcome can be. Look at what you have already told the universe you want to change and see if you can't lean into that. Be curious about what the universe is bringing you. Be proactive if it is something about losing a job or getting into, a career situation you don't like, or if it's about a relationship. As I said, be proactive and actively, get your resume ready, seek counseling, or, have open communication about this rather than withdrawing, or rather than just, clicking on the next video and saying, I'm not going to think about this now, because you are a more powerful soul than you give yourself credit for. I see this over and over, people with so much potential, the destiny that they could have, but they're holding themselves back. And so if you feel you're holding yourself back, it's time to trust yourself and believe in yourself. And that doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily be so easy. It's like climbing Kilimanjaro is still a climb, but you have more abilities than you think you do. You have more resilience than you think you do. You are stronger than you think you are. So that's my little eclipse speech. Let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries, you guys are doing this solar eclipse in your area of travel, ideas, education, legal matters, and your beliefs. And that can extend from spiritual beliefs and into religion or your personal code. And so this is the areas where we're seeing that a change is happening. So starting from the top there, I said travel. So maybe you are considering whether it's time to travel or not. Maybe travel plans are being changed. When it comes to education, perhaps you're thinking about going back to school, or maybe you're thinking about doing some sort of accelerated program. Maybe you're in school and saying that you want to take a break, or you're wondering if you might want to change schools or change majors. When it comes to legal matters, this would be usually around something where the legal matter has already begun. But if you are on the verge of some sort of lawsuit, you want to move carefully, because to initiate a lawsuit during a solar eclipse could have repercussions on both sides. It could be a bumpy ride. But probably the thing that's under the most control for you is belief systems. And this is looking at your beliefs, and that can be how the world works, how you see things unfolding, what your connection to the higher powers are you co-creating with the universe? And that is, are you listening for the signs and then shifting directions as you get a message? Or are you just being a freight train and just saying, that you're just going to head from point A to point B no matter what happens? So this is, a track change, like the universe is saying, consider or reconsider something that you may have already decided, or a decision that you're about to make. Take a look at how your belief systems are, and your beliefs in general, are playing a role. The bigger thing here is that one of your beliefs may be shaken, and that is something that you have believed for a very long time, and then there can be some occurrence in your life that causes you to look and examine that belief to see if it is truly valid, or if it's been built on something that was false. And so, there's such a thing to be said for, the benefits of growth, of spiritual growth, of understanding things as you go through the world and gain experiences. And so it is so beneficial at times to reevaluate what you think and so this can be that opportunity for you. Now, when it comes to relationships, Venus is making a square to Mars, so there is some major opportunities when it comes to connecting with new potential romantic relationships, partnerships, mentorships, business partners, new friends. So you have great opportunities. And some of that may be because you are shifting, where you're going, and that would be the travel, what you're learning about, so the education, but also your beliefs about, whether you even believe, like you say, maybe you're an introvert and so you don't want to see people, but then when you examine your life, you figure, oh, you're somewhere in the spectrum of introvert, extrovert. Or perhaps you are someone who says, I'm always up for adventure, but then you notice you're not taking the time to go do new things. And so then you say, wait, if I'm going to be this person who's always up for adventure, then I have to go do something. And so this can be how the relationship is kind of informed by this eclipse. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that moon, which is part of the eclipse. And this always happens for you. This is normal because you're always going to pull energy from the moon. And so but this could mean that you and your family are deciding about where you're going to live, and how maybe education, maybe you want to be in a different school district, or maybe you are going away to school. Maybe that is changing where you're living. Maybe you're looking at living in a foreign land now that things are opening up a little bit. Maybe you are outside the country and you're thinking about moving back towards family, or moving across the country, either to be closer to family or to be closer to friends. So some people here, Aries, might be moving for spiritual reasons, so to be closer to a community. So there is this energy, though, of movement around you. It doesn't mean that you're going to move this month, because this is eclipse energy. This would be the time, though, over the next 2 weeks where you might make the decision to do the move. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus, which is moving to conjunct Pluto. And Pluto is a transformation. It's about doing something differently. And it's usually a transformation that starts by letting go of something. And in this case, it could be preconceived notions, or it might be that you are making more money because you are letting go of some of the excess in your life. Oftentimes when we buy things but don't use them, we keep them because we've already spent some money. Those are the sunk costs. But that item reminds us that we made a mistake, that we were in error of getting it, because if we had gotten it and used it, then it would have been great, but we didn't use it. And so, the Venus conjunct Pluto could mean that you're letting go of something to get money happening. Now, this is also in your area of career, and so it's possible that there is something changing, transforming, or letting go in your career that is causing more money to become available to you. Now, when we look at business income, as well as a family business or investments that are more of a traditional nature, that is the Venus conjunct Pluto. So you have an extraordinary time right now to make more money through your business, to make more money than usual through your investments. And these traditional investments, things like that, that may not be as exciting as some of the other investments, but maybe you're looking at those and finding something solid that you can feel really comfortable about having for a long term, and you're seeing growth there. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, Venus is not making an aspect with Uranus, nor is it making an aspect to Saturn. And so we're not seeing a bump up or increase over the next 2 weeks. It's interesting because you are showing big changes around your career itself. And so it's possible that you are negotiating for a raise or that you've gotten a new job, but you're not receiving the actual money within this 2-week period. So I do think that this is going to line up better in future videos, future full moons, new moons. But right now, there's such a transformation going on when it comes to how your attitudes are about money and how you're dealing with things. But I think that the results from the money derived from career come outside this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to exotic investments or risky endeavors, things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, the Venus is not making an aspect with the sun, and it is an eclipse. So with anything risky, you really want to be careful around volatile times, because even if you're not getting hit directly by the eclipse, other people around you could be. And so this is much more about collecting information, about finding out what you need to know, and because the eclipse is happening in your house of knowledge. And so this is about the preparation, maybe, to go into something that is unconventional or highly leveraged. And in the meantime, it is more that you are sitting by the sidelines because the energy is not lining up to get the money into your wallet. Okay, Taurus, this eclipse is falling in your area of resources from others. This includes money, but all kinds of help you could receive, as well as your house of intimacy. So when it comes to relationships, thank you. So this means there is some changes happening in this area. Now, this is a Sagittarius eclipse, so there's a great deal of focus on the information that you're receiving. Now, when we look at your house of resources, we're always dealing with Sagittarius energy. And so there's this thing that can happen with Taurus in general, which is that you collect a lot of information, but you don't actually take the action. So you get to be very knowledgeable about this topic, but when it comes to making that final decision, because Sagittarius energy is so different than your own, that you might have trouble, pulling the trigger. And so here it may feel overwhelming that you need to take an action, and you may at the same time feel like you don't have enough information. And so there is that dynamic going on. And so sometimes that's just a matter of organizing the information that you have and seeing what holes are in your plans. Now, this is also about power and where the power lies. So, and there's of course the external, more mundane power, and that is that your boss has power over your schedule, your landlord has the ultimate power over the place you live, and so there's all this constant power dynamic going on. But you also have spiritual power. Now, the spiritual power you can retain, or you can give it out to the other person. And that is, if you give your spiritual power to your boss, then you say, the boss can let me go at any time and then my life is over. And so that would be giving away the power. But you could say, yes, the boss does control your schedule and perhaps your job, but you have the ability to get another job, to gain more skills, to negotiate with this person. You have all these different options. That's your spiritual power. So this eclipse is talking about where that power resides. Are you giving away your power, or are you bringing that power back to yourself so that you can make your own choices, decide what you want to do, and not be just tossed around by other people's whims? When it comes to relationships, you're doing some extraordinary energy because Venus is making a conjunction to Pluto. And it's interesting because a conjunction to Pluto indicates that that you could be meeting somebody who is very different than you are. Maybe they come from a different place. Perhaps they have a different ideology, a different religion, different politics. They like a different sports team. And so therefore you are transforming or changing something about how you relate with people because of this individual. Or you are taking a relationship to a much more official level because this is in your house of contracts. So that is the business partnership you actually do a contract with, or your mentor, or in a relationship that you're moving it towards marriage. So LaRue is right here, and he's playing with the mouse and the keyboard and shaking the camera. So anyway, I don't know if you can see him right now, but he's right here. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from the sun, which is, of course, involved in the eclipse, but you always pull energy from the sun. So it's always involved in the eclipse or the full moon, new moon, etc. So that's not the unusual part. The unusual part is it's in your house of resources, and that means that you have an opportunity to pull together with family members to create something larger by pooling your resources. Now, there's the other side of this coin, which is what resources are you putting out to family, and does that need to be adjusted in some way? So, or are you receiving money from the family and then they're making some adjustments? So what are you giving? What are you receiving? And what kind of changes that needs to have? So that's kind of what some of this eclipse is about. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury, which is conjunct the eclipse. And so there's some big change that you're making, some big decision that's happening that you are about to move forward on. And so this might be that you're making a large purchase for your business, or that you are getting into investments that you haven't gotten into before, or maybe you're going into cash. Maybe you have some side business that's taking off. So there's definite opportunities for pulling in money from more sources than usual, but also could be differing amounts. So it could be larger or smaller, like many smaller sources of income, or perhaps some big windfall that you are ready to pull in. Now, when it comes to money from your business, family business, or traditional investments, you have a full house there. That's wonderful, but Mercury's not making an aspect with Jupiter. So what we've got is the profits seem to be coming outside of this 2-week period. And that is, business might be a little slow, so you're working on the back office, or that business is booming, but the invoices aren't due until maybe the end of the year. It's possible that you are making the decisions about the investments, so you're getting into things, but it's not time to take profits yet. When it comes to money derived from career, it's a different story because there's a square going on between Mercury and Neptune, and that means that you have the ability to gain more money per hour, or a bigger paycheck, or better commission, or to work more hours so you can gain more during this period. So that means that all you need to do is ask and something can happen. And this aspect is so strong that it's also possible that they may come to you with some sort of offer that you could then negotiate upwards. So because Neptune's in a money house, Mercury's in a money house, and Mercury is, the path from the outside money in the world to your wallet. And then when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that are highly leveraged or highly unusual, you are pulling energy from Mercury in a money house. So again, good news. So it was making that in conjunct to Uranus, but that's past. It was, it crossed this area of the eclipse, but that is past. And so it feels like a lot of the hesitation that you had, a lot of things that you were holding back on have now either cleared, or you have enough information now to move forward. So this looks like you have the ability to, get the contract signed or get your accounts set up and to start making money in this area. Okay, Gemini, you guys are doing this solar eclipse in your house of relationships, and that means that the big change is either in your attitudes about relating, or some specific relationship in your life is changing. And so if you are in a love relationship, maybe you are looking at this relationship and wondering if you're going to stay in the relationship, or perhaps you are taking a relationship to the next level and you're going to start living together or get engaged. So this is transforming or changing the relationship into its new, whatever it's going to birth into. So, but because other people are doing this energy as well, it's possible that they're going to initiate this to say, we need counseling, or, let's get together and get married. So it can, like it says, there's change. So that means it could go either direction, but you already have an inkling which direction it's heading. Now, this is all types of relationships, so not just love relationships, but also partnerships, friendships, collaborations that you're doing, mentors. There's a lot of energy here for making something more formal, like meeting somebody, clicking with that person, and then having that business partnership or that collaboration opportunity. Now, eclipses can be very stressful times, so you have an awareness that this energy is there, but the other people in your life may not. And so you have to be understanding with them to say, look, if you are feeling like something in the dynamic of this relationship needs to change, then you can tell them that you're open to talking about it, because communication is going to be key. And, communication is key for you anyway. But this Mercury is in Sagittarius, and, Mercury rules you. Mercury rules Gemini. And so this is where you can really gain the information that you need to make this relationship either happen or make it better. Now, all of that said, Mercury's not making an aspect with Jupiter, and so timing still could be off. So it's like you're trying to get a hold of each other to sit down and talk, or you want to move something forward, or you want to dissolve something, but you're having trouble getting with that person. The eclipse energy talks about the decision being made, not necessarily all of the actions happening within the 2 weeks. So if you can't get a hold of the person, or if you can't connect to say what you need to say, recognize that's just happening outside the 2-week period. Now, the same thing goes for looking for love. You may meet the person and make some sort of connection, but then not be able to get together a second time. And so that is because, so much is going on and there's no aspect. So the timing could be off. Now, that said, this is really a great chart for meeting somebody new, especially for an intimate relationship, because you have Venus and Pluto up in that house of intimacy. And so you could find someone with whom you have great sexual chemistry. So, but to actually, like, you'll meet somebody and then maybe not see them for a few weeks and then come together for the relationship. When it comes to family energy, you are pulling that energy from the Mercury in your house of other people and relationships. And so some of that is looking at family members and who they're relating to and seeing if there can be more harmony in how you feel about your, sister-in-law, or the person your son is dating, or, those sort of external connections, your daughter's friends and so forth. So this is about looking at those relationships, those expanded or extended relationships, and seeing how you feel about them, making a decision about them, about how you're going to move forward, and trying to find some sort of common ground so that you don't have difficulties in the personal relationship because of these external people. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that moon, which is involved in the solar eclipse, but that's standard for you because you always pull your money from wherever the moon is. And so it's always going to be a new moon, full moon, or an eclipse. And so that's something you've dealt with your entire life. And what it means is that as stable as you would like your money to be, it's never really that stable. There's always external things happening that is creating change. And especially this time because the moon is in your house of others. So others are changing something about themselves, or the business is changing, something external is changing, and that is affecting your finances. Now that can affect your income or your expenses. And so it's oftentimes with this connection to the moon, what happens is that money seems to ebb and flow. Sometimes it's flowing in and that's really great, and sometimes it ebbs. And that can make you so nervous about making sure that there's enough that you end up really being good about storing resources just in case that you're coming up on an ebb. This connection right now with the moon in the 7th house says the more people you know and connect with, the more money you're going to make. And that is, of course, quality people who are going to want to help you, or could be customers, or have information for you. And we're not just talking about, random people that you bump in the produce section of Ralph's. So this is the people who you spiritually put out that call for, and they come in as friends or clients or customers. Now, when it comes to business income, or income from a family business, or traditional investments, the moon's making a sextile to Saturn, and therefore there is an opportunity to make something happen. Plus, Venus is conjunct Pluto in that house. So the sextile says that you have to do some sort of action to get things going, that you have to move something forward, make the call, set up the account, do a proposal for the client. But the Venus conjunct Pluto says that something quite extraordinary can happen, something big, like possibly a big windfall. But also it's necessary for you to release something to have something happen. So if we are looking from a business standpoint, this could be landing a really big client, but it might mean needing to let go of some smaller clients who are a lot of work and possibly trouble. And in investments, this might mean if you are changing out some investments, you have to let go of one investment so you have the resources to buy another. So we're seeing this sort of hand in hand, letting go to gain something energy. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and this is the money that you get for working for somebody else, we do not have an aspect between Moon and Mars. And so therefore, it's challenging for you to ask for a raise or try to get a bonus or try to get some sort of extra perks during this time. And of course, Chiron's been going through this house for some time. And so it might be that you are looking at your job and wondering why you're there. What is the benefit? And so now, with so much in lighting up your house of relationships, it's time to start asking friends and mentors and trusted colleagues what other options there are out there, so you can start to see what the educational needs are, or what kind of skills you have to build to get something better. But right now, you're not showing a lot of extra money from your career over the next couple of weeks. And finally, when we look at risky investments, and these are the things like buying a franchise or doing something that is highly exotic, unusual, and borders on the risky, well, or is really risky, the moon's not making an aspect to Venus. And so now Venus is in a house of resources, and so moon is about talking to other people right now. So I feel like you're collecting a lot of information. Maybe you're getting accounts ready to do something, but you're not quite doing it yet, which makes perfect sense because during times of eclipses, we can see high volatility in markets. We can see, big swings in prices, or things, like disappear entirely, or new opportunities arise. And so you may want to wait till the dust settles on this eclipse for a couple of weeks to see what shakes out. Because there can be just a little bit of chaos, especially in the risky investment area, and you want to just kind of wait and see what kind of direction you get, what kind of intuition, what your intuition is saying as we come out of this eclipse energy in a couple of weeks. Okay, Cancer, you guys are doing this eclipse in your area of health, daily routines, well-being, the processes you do, the habits that you have, and also your work when it pertains to coworkers and how you interact either in an office setting or just the day-to-day tasks that you do in your job. And so it's possible that there is some sort of job change happening at this time, although it's more likely that this is a change of duties or tasks, or that the people that you work with are making some sort of change. Now, I don't have your chart in front of me. If you are doing a hit to your Saturn or your midheaven, or, sometimes, well, certainly the ruler of your midheaven, those could mean that you're actually changing jobs. But from just this energy, it would more be that the job is changing. Now, this is also about taking care of yourself in a different way. Now, this energy over here in the 6th house is a little bit different than 1st house energy. 1st house energy is about taking care of your physical self, and that is about exercising and eating right and all that. But this 6th house energy that you're doing is more about the habits that lead you to do those things. The 6th house is more about, putting on your tennis shoes to go for the walk, to make sure that the vegetables are in the fridge so that you will eat them and stuff like that. So this is a transformation, or some sort of obstacle in the way of transforming that you have to overcome to work on your health. And so you might be gathering important information about it. You might get some new doctor's orders about it, maybe dealing with new medications, or you are looking at a different way of eating. And then this is about transforming things on that incremental level so that your habits can change. And so books like Mini Habits, I think there's tons now, Mini Habits, Tiny Habits, any incremental habits, of course, Atomic Habits, which, it's named not after atomic power, although I think that's part of it, but that the atom is so tiny. And so it's about that tiny habit making that bigger change. And so that's a book I've talked about on this channel. I think everybody on most channels, they talk about that book. It is quite a helpful book. So this is where you're gathering up that information, looking at something in your life and saying, that's it, I'm going to change. And this eclipse helps you make that change. When it comes to relationships, the moon is making a sextile with Saturn, and we have Venus conjunct Pluto in your house of relationships. So you have some pretty powerful energy here. Now, the sextile does say that you need to initiate something. You need to take some sort of action to get things to happen. You can't just sit around by the phone because the sextile energy will just pass you by. So this is you take an action and then something beneficial can happen. Now, the Venus conjunct Pluto in that house can bring some obsession, and that is either you're quite obsessed with this relationship, or as you get it going, you find that they're obsessed with you. And so you you want to make sure that you're aware that that can happen, at least for this 2-week period. So it's possible that you get really excited about this relationship and you can't stop seeing each other, but then after a couple of weeks, you settle into a nice routine. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Venus, which is making that conjunction to Pluto. So there is something where you feel is quite important about either some family member who you want to change the direction that they're heading, or you want them to give up something, or you want them to let go of someone, or you are having trouble with their partner, the person that they like, or their friends. There's this energy of, it's kind of like you take the inner circle and then you go out one more circle, and that could be the person who you are struggling with. And so this energy is that you might be obsessed, that and because you don't have power in this situation to get them to stop seeing that person, or you might think that there's some obsession going on within that relationship, that your cousin is obsessed with their girlfriend, or that your son is focused so much on his friends and not on other things. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from the sun in your house of work. And so that means the more you work, the more you make, which is not always the case in everything. Sometimes us working more doesn't bring us more money. So in this case, it is about using your mind to find better ways to be productive, or to look for ways to get rid of procrastination or perfectionism. So this is that if you can look at the processes you do, you can increase your productivity, and therefore you can make more money. It also, of course, on the mundane level says you could get a new job. Now, when it comes to business income, or income from a family business, or more traditional investments, the sun's making an inconjunct to Uranus. And while the inconjunct is not the happiest of aspects, we are always happy to see an aspect, because the planet that rules the external opportunity needs a way to channel the money into your account. And in this case, it's the inconjunct, which means it's outside your comfort zone, and it is also something that you don't really want to do. So there's some aspect of your business or your investments that you have been putting off, or that you need to slightly change direction. I shouldn't even say slightly, probably a little more changing of directions. And that brings you then opportunities and directly to money. So you have the ability to make more money, but you have to do something that you either don't feel comfortable doing, or you do something you don't really want to do, and that's when the profits roll in. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and that would be the income from your job, you have an interesting thing going on. So first, there is no aspect between Sun and Venus. However, Uranus, for a long time now, has been pulling energy from your house of having your own business. And so there's two ways, of course, that this can manifest, and that is that you go from your job to starting your own company, which would be some sort of company based on the skills you learned in that job, or that you're a contractor, or you are somehow supplying goods and services to a company and then they hire you. So, but we're not showing a great deal of ability to make extra money in this area this time. So this is just an idea that I wanted to float past you, that this can happen. This aspect with Uranus is a very long one, so you may need to wait until every part of this lines up, which it certainly will, before you actually take action on it. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things, of course, that everybody is talking about now, that would include your cryptocurrencies, your NFTs, and all of that. The sun is making a semi-square to Pluto, and a semi-square is not a very comfortable aspect, which means that most of this is probably outside your comfort zone. And that is that as you get involved, you find there's a whole vocabulary to learn. There is so much nuanced information, and it's very important that you have a firm understanding of what you're doing, because to bring the money in, you have to understand like how to visualize it coming to you, how to how to make the transactions, how to take profits, what are the fees, what are the restrictions. So you have to do your homework in this case, but when you do have an opportunity to gain extra over the next 2 weeks. It's just not a comfortable opportunity because the semi-square is not that fun. Okay, Leo, you guys are doing this solar eclipse in your area of romance, adventure, children, fertility, creativity, and risky investments. And so, of course, we will get to the risky investments in detail towards the end of your segment. But this is about some sort of change happening, and there may be a great deal of desire that you feel like you really want to do something. Maybe you feel something is blocked. It's perhaps like you want to be in a romantic relationship, but you haven't found that person, and this is your opportunity now to maybe do something different. Maybe you have said that you weren't going to go online, or maybe you're just doing it online and you need to maybe go to friends and family and have them help you with your profile, or to be very honest with you, to tell you what's working and what's not working. This is also the same when it comes to children, fertility. This is about looking at what's working for you and what's not, and seeing what changes to make. This is possible that, there is that your kids are going through something, or maybe you need to move from an idea of fertility to adoption. Maybe you are considering adoption and you're feeling things are blocked, and maybe you need to find that, how you can fulfill this need from some other direction. So, maybe like, if I'm not going to go to the maybe. I would love to look at your chart and say, specifically, but, I'm just doing a general reading. So, I don't want you to feel that I'm being insensitive. You are going through something, and the eclipse in this area says that it is very real. So, but I can't give you specific options without seeing your chart. And I do readings, so if you're interested, you can email me. Now, the creativity side of this is about, letting something go, and that's possibly perfectionism, possibly the fear that somebody's not going to like what you have done, that you are putting yourself in the spotlight, and that might be the hesitation that you don't like to be on stage, that you are not ready to show people what you've done, and so, but the universe is kind of suggesting that you are. And then when it comes to risks, it is risks in general as well as risky investments, and that is, if your days are just the same over and over, if you feel like you're in a rut, then this is your opportunity to think outside that whatever norms there is, whatever structure there is. I was going to say box. Everybody says box, but it's really about thinking outside of the rules or structure that you have set up, to, and asking yourself those good questions like we talked about a few times ago, which, one of those questions would be, what if you did the opposite of what you're thinking of doing? Or another good question would be, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Now, speaking of adventure, when we look at relationships for you, the sun is making an inconjunct to Uranus, which is not a great aspect, but it is an aspect. So it means there's a connection here, but something is outside of your comfort zone, or something is asking you to make an adjustment. And that could be that you meet a person and you really connect, but they don't look like or sound like what you were thinking that your next partner would. Maybe they are older, or they're from a different place, or they have a different educational background. Like something is outside of what you were thinking before, and now you're considering, making a connection with this person. So that can be part of the adventure. If it's outside of your comfort zone, you've never dated a person like this before, then you could start. And this is the same with all kinds of relationships. And so that could be business partnerships or collaborating with somebody. Maybe they are outside your sphere, and so you're thinking, wow, am I going to live up to this person's expectations? Or maybe you are lifting someone up because, you know, you're being the mentor, but it still feels uncomfortable for you because you didn't necessarily want to be that person they were looking up to. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Pluto, which is conjunct Venus. So there is some sort of obsession about something, and that might be that something's being replaced in the house, or that you're having to put some money into the place, but you're having trouble finding the work people to get things installed. Maybe you are waiting for a piece of furniture or an appliance or something like that. This is also, though, that Mars going through that house, and so there's more of a nesting energy, or an energy of trying to figure out how you can transform your place to make it more comfortable, or to get a better price for it, or to, you know, if there's some place that you wanted to live but you can't go live there, how can you make this place more satisfying emotionally, and for you to be more physically comfortable in the place. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from Mercury in your house of risky investments. And this is that you are wanting to do something that's bigger. And by risky investments, most risky investments are, you know, leveraged in some way. Now, sometimes they're not leveraged financially. Maybe they are leveraged because of how much time and effort you're putting into them. So this could be a creative work that you're doing. And so this is the energy that you're pulling from, though. And so it does say to be bold, to take some chances, and, you know, still not foolhardy chances, but chances that you have calculated, that you thought through, because this Mercury's in Sagittarius. This is something that you've researched. You know, you've done your pros and cons list, you've looked at the upside, you've looked at the downside, and then you're making a decision. And that decision then leads to the money. Now, when it comes to money from your business, a family business, or from traditional investments like stocks and bonds, you know, that normal stock market that everybody used to invest in, your Mercury is doing a square with Neptune, and that is a really strong aspect. Neptune is in a money house, Mercury is in a money house, so things are really lined up for you to gain some profits from what you're doing in business or for what you're doing in traditional investing. And so that might be that you are cashing in some things. You know, during eclipse times, there can be a lot of volatility in the market. So maybe you're moving into a cash position, or because there's volatility, you know, the market goes down and then you buy and then it goes back up, and so you make some profits. So the energy around you making more money than usual is quite strong. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, it is also strong because that Mercury is already past the aspect with Uranus. It's already past that sextile with Saturn. So there's not a lot of impediments to you making more money. That means that, you know, if you've been asking for a raise, they're running out of reasons not to give it to you. There's too many business opportunities out there for you, too many ways for you to get another job. So if you are looking for a raise or more hours or some sort of perks, this is a great time to ask. And finally, when we look at risky investments, and as we said, these are the things that are highly leveraged or take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going. Now, while Mercury is not making an aspect to Jupiter, the house is filled, Mercury is in that house, so you do have all the makings of getting this started. It's probable that you're not going to be able to pull profits out of this within this 2-week period, but the decisions that you're making now, the research that you're doing, the contracts that you are getting ready to sign, these could be quite beneficial for you because you have now the ability to discern what's working, what's good, and to negotiate for a better contract. So this isn't about signing blindly or, you know, just going in there all willy-nilly. Willy-nilly. So I'm sure everybody says willy-nilly, right? Yeah. So, but this is using your knowledge to make an informed decision, and then you are setting the stage for big profits later. Okay, Virgo, you guys are doing this eclipse energy in your area of home, family, and foundations. And because this energy is a natural square, it's more likely you are affected by this eclipse. And so there is probable changes going on. Now, from the more mundane side, that could mean that you're moving, you're transforming the house in some way, you know, somebody's moving in, somebody's moving out, or you've decided to rent out a room, or you might be building a granny flat in the backyard. Very practical things. It also can be starting a business at home, so you're clearing out a space for that, or the home is expanding in some way, like you're getting a pet, and so you have to pet-proof the house. So, but from the more spiritual side, this is about looking at your foundations, and in some ways, you might be pulling, you know, the knowledge and talents from your ancestors, but at the same time, you could be cutting cords with some of the negative things that happened in your childhood or early years, or even before that in past lives, so that you're not carrying that burden anymore. And so this is something where you're doing kind of a spiritual action, not kind of, you're doing a spiritual action to release yourself from ties from the past that are impeding you. So, you know, and that could be abuse from people who were in authority, or that you latched on to certain philosophies that became limiting beliefs, and now you can cut those cords. Now, when it comes to relationships, Mercury's making a square to Neptune, and so we have a lot of activity there. But it's interesting because there's so many planets below the horizon for you that you have to get out of the house. You have to be seen to meet these people. Well, I mean, I'm sitting in my house and I'm talking to you, so you don't have to completely leave the house, but you have to have some conduit that gets you to connect with that person in the outside world. And so that's the only caveat I would say. That the square means that even if you don't, though, they may be knocking on your door. So that is, people might want to fix you up with somebody, people are going to have you collaborate, or people may be coming to you saying that they want to work with you, they want to mentor you. So you know, you're getting the benefit of the square. But if you push yourself out there, you can meet even more. So when it comes to home and family, of course, you have a full house, and we talked about that a little bit. It's pulling energy from that Jupiter, which is in your house of routines and, you know, just the processes that you use to get daily things done. And this Jupiter here being in Aquarius can give you some innovative ideas of how to change things at home. But there is so much going on in that house already. I think that the Jupiter is just protecting you from, you know, things that could be worse. I know it's so hard to know. Like, if I say it could have been worse, you go, but you don't know because it wasn't worse. But it's that if the norm is that you need to buy a refrigerator and it's going to take 6 weeks, through some visualization and talking to the universe, maybe it comes in 3 weeks. And it's that sort of how you can use that Jupiter to benefit you, is to activate the spiritual component, tell the universe what you're looking for, and then step back and let the universe make those choices. You can't say that because the refrigerator did take 5 weeks or 6 weeks that the universe was not paying attention. It could be that the universe had a very good reason for delaying that refrigerator, so or whatever. So it is ask and then step aside and allow the universe to do what it's going to do, because from that vantage point, the vantage point of the universe, they can see more than we can, and there might be a very good reason for delays or problems or conflicts. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Venus in your house of risky investments, and that Venus is conjunct Pluto. And that means that you might be very obsessed right now with some aspect of NFTs or having your own business or getting your album out. And this could be your focus. And the thing that's in your way is something that you need to let go of. So there is something, some sort of impediment, and whether that's the fear or the desire to be perfect or that you feel this is just overwhelming, it's just about sitting down and taking this on a more minute level of, learning the terminology or figuring out the software or finding somebody who is going to mentor you, but in a way where they don't overwhelm you with information. So you show this big opportunity to get all these different sources of money, but there is something you need to let go of. Something is in your way. Now, when it comes to money from a business or traditional investments or a family business, Venus is making a square to Mars, so really good energy for making profits, for signing some great contracts, getting new customers, getting new clients. Or it's possible, because of the volatility that we are probably going to see in the markets with the eclipses, that you would be able to buy on a low and then ride that back up as it returns to the levels that it had before. So there's great profit potential for you in this area. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and this would be like income from a paycheck, Venus is not making an aspect with the moon. And the moon is down there in your house of home and family. So it seems like you're rather focused on other things. And so everything's pretty status quo when it comes to your job. It's more like you go to your job, you get your paycheck, but you have plans, and those plans may include your current career, but they also may not. And so this is about working on a side business, but something you can build, or learning how to do some sort of passive income source that might be taking a lot of time and energy to get going. And so therefore, that's where your attention is. And then finally, when it comes to risky investments, we were already saying that the ruler of your money is in your house of risky investments. Now, it's not making an aspect to Saturn, and we needed that to complete the loop so that the money that's out in the world gets to you. But it's getting closer. This is going to line up. And right now, it is more about getting all the details and getting that block that we were talking about before removed to figure out what's stopping you. And so, and that is, again, as I always go back to, is like, what are the quality of the questions that you're asking yourself? Pluto is about power. And so if you say the thing that's stopping me is something external, then the power exists elsewhere. But the better question to ask is, if it's within my power to do this thing, what is it that I need to let go of, or what do I have to change? Or perhaps this is the idea of, if you think that something external is stopping you, to say, what if it's not? What if this is me stopping me? And so how can I get past this? So this hasn't quite lined up yet, but I like the energy for beginning something in this area. I think the profits, though, will come outside this 2-week period. Okay, Libra, you guys are doing this eclipse in your area of communication, as well as short distance travel, vehicles, siblings, neighbors, did I say education? I might have said education. It's more compulsory education rather than higher education. But starting with communication, and this includes talking to yourself, how you are communicating with yourself. This is one of the biggest, easiest things that you can change. So yes, this eclipse can bring things that, are just, in your way, and that can be anything from the car breaking down to a jury summons to you having to, fight with the neighbor because they keep leaving their trash cans on your property or something like that. But what's more important is to look at how you're communicating with yourself and with other people. And if you're not getting the results that you want, to change that communication. And there's great videos on this. Myself and another astrologer, Tammy Magaro, have created some books on how we communicate with our various Mercuries. And this is something that I'll talk much more about in the future in other videos. But this is to look at the language that you use for yourself, the specific words, because words have power. And so are you understating the seriousness of something? Are you catastrophizing? Is that the word? I think there's an extra syllable that I missed. Are you using words that are extreme and dramatic to describe things that maybe aren't as dramatic, or that require words like that? Or is it that you just need to ask yourself, am I seeing the truth about this? Am I telling myself the truth about this? Because something like that could really transform your life. Now, again, it's possible this is something going to be external, so an issue with a neighbor, something going on with one of your siblings, or that you need to get a new car. And getting a new car during eclipses can be a little bit problematic, but know that Mercury is going to go retrograde. I'm pretty sure it's January. I'll put the date up. And so you want to kind of time it so you're not getting a new car on the eclipse itself, but you also want to not get it during that Mercury retrograde period. When it comes to relationships, Venus is making a sextile to Mars, and this means there are some great opportunities, but you're going to have to take some sort of action to make them happen. And this is interesting because now we have most of the planets below the horizon, which makes you a little hard to find. So you have to get out of the house somehow, and with the Venus sitting in your house of home and family, it's like you're home, you're comfortable, you don't really want to budge. So there's certainly benefits for you reaching out to somebody who, especially for a business partnership, collaboration, a mentor, but also love relationships are possible here. It's just, it needs you to take some sort of action so that you can connect with others. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from Saturn, but you have that Venus conjunct Pluto in that house. And so there is something where, while you're trying maybe to be your usual stoic, prudent nature, you're obsessed about something. You are really focused on making some sort of change at home. Perhaps you're getting ready to move. Perhaps you're looking for a place. Maybe you are decluttering on an extreme level, or you are, unpacking because you've just moved. Maybe somebody's moving into the house or moving out of the house, and this is creating some disruption. So what we see is there's definite energy here for letting go. This is, so you're at home, but there is an obsessed thoughts or a desire to remove something or transform something to make the place more comfortable or to get out of the place entirely. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Pluto, which is conjunct that Venus, as well as the Mars in your house of money. So many money opportunities for you. That means that the universe is presenting you with ideas and actual people who could be customers, clients, jobs. So there are so many different avenues and ways you could go. You might feel a little bit overwhelmed, and that's why we see the eclipse in that area of information, of just thinking and communicating with people. Maybe you don't have good systems right now for dealing with like everybody who wants your services, or maybe your resume is not ready to post even though that job is there and you could get it. This is where you have so many money opportunities, and you have to take the time to really just stop for a moment, turn off the social media so that you can be aware of what the universe is offering you. When it comes to your money from traditional investments or your own business or a family business, Venus is making a conjunction to Pluto. That is fabulous, especially because it's in your house of family. Could be a family business, like pooling resources together to get something started or do investments. But this is also about any sort of money that you're making from business sources, your own business, or through traditional investments, as very strong right now. And some of that might be because Eclipses create a lot of volatility in the market, so there might be some buy opportunities, there might be some sell opportunities, so you can take some profits. But this is really great energy, and again, you want to kind of, leave off the distractions and give yourself some time to focus on what the universe is offering you. When it comes to money derived from career, and this is income that you would get for working for somebody else, the sun is making a semi-square to Pluto, which is not the most comfortable aspect, but it is an aspect. And so therefore it's possible to ask for a raise and receive at least part of that, or maybe get a little bit more flexibility in your schedule, or a company car, or something that translates into actual money for you. So this is really good energy. It's, the energy for you lines up every once in a while, and this one I think is a little bit better than you've had. Well, I don't actually remember what you had for the lunar eclipse, so that one might have been pretty good. So, but even though this is outside your comfort zone, you still might want to take it, because it's good practice to do things where you are outside your comfort zone, asking for a raise, asking for, the sale, asking for more hours, because then after a while you get comfortable with doing that. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, you are not doing an aspect between Pluto and Uranus, nor is there an aspect between Mars and Saturn. Yes, and so right now the energy is not lining up. It means that there is a lot of opportunities out there, but it's very challenging to get the actual funds into your account over the 2-week period. So that means that you can be working on the business, you might be signing contracts with all of these planets in your house of communication, or you're learning a great deal about it, you're opening accounts, you're getting things ready, but the profits aren't here yet. And so again, with an eclipse, there can be so much volatility in the market, so that could be the issue, that you just don't see a buy signal or a sell signal. Or if this is something longer, you are just working on it. You're working on your album, you're working on your novel, your screenplay, and it's just not ready yet. So this energy will line up in the future, and so you just have to be patient, because when it lines up, you can do some extraordinary things. Okay, Scorpio, this eclipse is happening in your area of money, possessions, and your sense of self-worth, and this ties into deserving. When you feel deserving, then you open up opportunities for money to come to you. But I'm jumping ahead here. So the eclipse in this area does say that there is some sort of change that needs to happen. And this can be that something external is happening, like you're losing a source of income, or that a source of income is changing. But it also can be that you've made some sort of realization or shift inside, where you are now seeing more money opportunities. And so you're going to make a change that way. And in other words, maybe you are shifting from an idea of trying to protect assets, and you shift into pursuing assets. Or you might look at doing something that's considered more traditional, or maybe you're not investing at all, and then you move towards investing and maybe even non-traditional investments. So all of this said, the eclipse here has the deeper meaning of your sense of self-worth. That is, if you don't feel that you deserve success and abundance, then it's very, very hard for you to spot the opportunities. Because, when we say, like, when you feel you deserve it, then the universe sends it to you. The universe is actually sending you opportunities all the time. But if you don't feel you deserve those, you're not looking for them. You're actually turning away from them. And so how do you shift a sense of deserving? And that's by questioning yourself. And this is in Sagittarius. And so it is about questioning assumptions, questioning beliefs that you might have had since childhood. It's about questioning how you even communicate with yourself about finance things. Maybe you say to yourself, I'm not good with money, or, I don't do investing, or, the stock market is scary, or something like that. So this is very much about you looking at at what's going on inside of you, making a shift, and then you can suddenly see all these money opportunities. Now, when it comes to relationships, you have some really extraordinary energy because Venus is making a conjunction with Pluto. Now, Venus conjunct Pluto is highly obsessive. It is very, very focused. And it is almost so focused, like it's a focus to the exclusion of other things. But it also can mean that you are aggressively letting go of something so that you can pursue something. And so that could be that you are changing relationships, that you're leaving an old relationship and going into a new relationship. And of course, that includes friendships, business partnerships, mentors, as well as love relationships. Now, this also can mean that the shift is more inside of you, where you are becoming single-mindedly focused on a relationship. Now, most of the energy here is below the horizon, and that's why I feel like this is more going on inside of you rather than you being pursued. We do have Uranus in your 7th house, and so there is a small chance that it's the other person who is feeling obsessed with you and is wanting to change your mind about moving forward in the relationship. So you have to weigh that with what's going on with you. But this is a strong energy, especially for a passionate love relationship. If that's what you've wanted, this is a time to go out on dates, to put yourself on, different platforms where you could meet someone, or let friends and family know that you want to meet somebody new. Now, when it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Uranus, which is making that inconjunct to the eclipse point. We haven't talked about that inconjunct very much in this talk because this is a separating inconjunct. So that means that something that's been uncomfortable or difficult at home is now dissipating. That energy is clearing. And so this could be you're at the tail end of some renovations, or you have moved and now you're unpacking, or you are moving but you've found your spot, you've secured it. So the energy here is still disruptive, but it's a disruption that you're aware of, and the energy is not as bad as it was previously. So you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. When it comes to your money, I just have to say, wow, because you have South Node, Sun, Moon, Mercury in that house, and it's pulling energy from Jupiter. So like you have some of the best energy right now for really grabbing hold of new money opportunities. So, and it's all the things that we said in the intro of your segment, of the Scorpio segment, this is very much about, shifting internally your philosophy or your rules about things to open up money opportunities. But in a very real world sense, this is easily 4 separate money opportunities, which could be jobs, somebody inviting you to do some work with them, a side business, investment profits that you can take. So we do show some really great opportunities. Now, as we go through, we'll see how easily it's going to be to get those over the next 2 weeks. And I will tell you ahead, it may not be, but you'll start the process. And of course, a process that lasts more than 2 weeks is perfectly fine. We do it all the time. This is more about seeing the opportunities and starting the process so that you can get that harvest later. So when it comes to traditional investments or having your own business or a family business, I already let the cat out of the bag. There's no aspect between Mercury and Jupiter. Those two have not lined up yet. So the profits that you are seeing have not ripened enough for you to put them in your basket and, take them home. And so that is that you are still in the process maybe of tending the crops, in other words, monitoring your investments, looking at, are you getting eaten up by fees from your brokerage? Do you have money that's just sitting there and not invested? This is an eclipse. And so before I get too far down that little rabbit hole, I will say that as a Scorpio or Scorpio rising, you lean towards security, and this is an eclipse. And so eclipses create volatility. And so if you want to sit this part out, that's perfectly fine. You do your research, you look at internal blocks and remove those, and you get accounts in place so that you can take action when the markets settle down. The same thing with business. It's a lot maybe of back office things, or you've sent out contracts but you haven't got them back yet. Customers are on the fence, probably because there's an eclipse, and so their lives are uncertain. But there's so many things you can do, and I've said this many times, that old saying, when fishermen can't fish, they mend their nets. And so this is a time where if your nets are ready, soon all this energy lines up, and then you can cast your nets out. But right now, you cast your nets out and you're not pulling back much. So when we look at money derived from career, it's pretty much the same story. And that is that there's no aspect between Mercury and Jupiter. And additionally, everything right now is below the horizon, which probably means you're working at home or you're out of sight from the boss. Maybe they're working at home. And so there's not a lot of opportunities for you to sit the boss down to ask for a raise, or even really be recognized for your work. And so it's more that you're working behind the scenes a little bit, which I know Scorpio doesn't mind. But in general, asking for a raise this time, you're just going to hit a wall. So just sit on that at least for a few weeks. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that are unconventional, that you'd have to sit down and explain to your grandpa, things that might be highly leveraged or that border on gambling. Jupiter is making a semi-sextile to Neptune, so you have opportunities in this area. A semi-sextile is not that comfortable. I know I keep saying this to you. You have to get outside your comfort zone, and right now with this eclipse, the best way to do that is with more knowledge. And that is to sit down and do tutorials on this type of investment that you want to do, or go find a mentor or a teacher, some way that all the information can be broken down into a place where you can understand it and explain it to somebody else. And at that point, you're going to feel comfortable enough to move forward. Okay, Sagittarius, this is your eclipse, and you're going to be happy to hear that this is the last in the series of Gemini Sagittarius eclipses that we're going to have for 9 years. And so now a lot of the changes in your life you've already implemented because they've been going on for about 1.5 years. And so you now can feel like you're breathing a little bit more easily because changes that you're making, you already made these decisions, you already have a path laid out in front of you. So now, if you have friends who maybe are not as spiritually minded as you are, it's possible that they haven't been noticing all the messages from the universe, and they're going to get hit with something, and that can ripple and affect you. So that's a possibility. But for the most part, I'm expecting that if I was to phone you up and say, so what's changing in your life, you would know. You'd say, oh, it's A, B, and C, and I'm ready for B and C, and A, I'm hoping doesn't happen, but I'm going to be ready for that, So, and that's the key here. Now, this is your eclipse, so it affects your relations with other people. And so when we look at your relationships, there's a great deal of inner work that you can do, where you clear out a block to a love relationship, business partnership, or finding a mentor. And that's based on, how you tell the story about yourself. These eclipses, when they're around the ascendant, get you to look at how you define your identity. And that can be just summed up in those words that I hear so often. I'm the kind of person who, and so if you tend to say that, then you're writing a story about yourself. And it's time, Sagittarius, for you to look at whether that story is a good story for you. And if it's not, how can you rewrite that story in a way that you still feel is truthful, in a way that you still feel has integrity? Because a lot of the things that people say, like if they say to me, I have a lot of trouble in relationships, it's challenging then if you're trying to base your whole identity around something that's vague like that. On the other hand, if you say, I'm really terrible at love relationships, well, then you can say that blanket statement and then make future relationships difficult because then you're anticipating that there's going to be problems. Or you can say, why am I saying that? And even if that's true, then how could I have fixed those relationships in the past? What could I have done differently? And then how can I apply this information to the future? I know this is obvious stuff, but this is your eclipse. And so once every 9 years, you get this series where you get the universe saying, please focus on yourself, look at your life path, see if you're still on path, or if you have skewed into fear or negativity, or if you are, like facing a big wall, which would be a sign that maybe you're supposed to be looking for other avenues. So when we look at relationships in general, Mercury is not making an aspect to Jupiter. So you're attracting a lot of energy because you're going through changes and that gets people's attention. But for the most part, relationships aren't necessarily coming together this time. It's like you're making a shift and now new opportunities are approaching, but you're probably dating or building a partnership outside this 2-week period. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Neptune, which is not making an aspect to this eclipse. And so for the most part, we have some peace going on at home. And, I don't see any pressure on it. So that is, if you have a disruptive home, it was disruptive before, and you have to take bigger steps to change something about you to make that different. Because the things at home, there's no external pressure to get them to change, to get the other people to change. So all the pressure is on you. So which says that you do have some power to affect what's going on in your home. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying that you're the 100% responsible for what's going on. There's always shared responsibility, but you're the person who has the energy. And so that means that you can affect changes, but everybody else seems to be kind of sitting around and not doing much. So if you want something to change at home, you have to do it. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Saturn, which is doing a sextile to this eclipse. So there are some opportunities that are coming in. Now, this sextile is separating, so it is quite likely what those opportunities are, that those opportunities started even a couple of weeks ago, and now it's asking you to move forward. If you do not move forward, then this opportunity will dissipate, but another opportunity will come up in its place in a few weeks. So right now, this is something where if you look into your past, you're going to see some different things that you could have taken a hold of. It's not too late because this is still in orb, but you may want to move on this. Again, it's a sextile, which means you have to take action or else this passes you by. Now, when it comes to business income or income from a family business or from traditional investments, the moon is making a sextile to Saturn, as we were just talking about. So again, everything is hinged on you taking an action, and that means, maybe evaluating your investments, maybe doing some sort of marketing plan, calling up previous customers and asking for referrals. So you take an action and then some benefit comes, and it comes quite easily. So the sextile is a very positive aspect, because after taking a little action, everything else of the process is pretty easy. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and that would be getting paid from a regular job, Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn. And so there's kind of a disconnect going on. Now, the only thing I can say is because Venus is in your house of money, and and I probably should have said this earlier when we were talking about pulling that energy for money. Venus is making a conjunction to Pluto in your house of money. So in fact, you're quite obsessed about something regarding money. And maybe this is about making more money in your job or letting go of your job so that you can make money. Maybe your job is taking up so much of your time that you can't make any actual money because, you have to show up for work and there's commutes and a lot of busy work, or you're just sitting there waiting for, some opportunity to come. And it's everything here is got you very focused, like blinders on, to say that, why is this not happening? Why is this not changing? And the Venus conjunct Pluto says, let go of something. Let go of something, even in the most literal sense, like just declutter a closet to get the energy moving. Let go of something personally, let go of something that you wear that you don't wear any longer, or cut your hair or something like that. Like, let go of something, and that will help open up the energy. But we don't have the aspect going on between Saturn and Venus, so the benefits of this come outside the 2-week period. And then finally, when we're looking at risky investments, and these are things like buying a franchise or buying a business or doing something that is rather exotic, Saturn's not making an aspect with Mars. And so lots of the benefits that you're going to get are outside of the 2-week period. This is quite possible that you are working on this, but Mars is hidden in your 12th house, and that means that you may be kind of mulling it over. You may be just kind of waiting to see what's happening. I don't see you so actively pursuing this right now. It's probably because so many other things are going on in your life. The universe is very kind that way. It helps us focus on things by pushing other things out of our field of vision. So if you're in the process of doing some sort of risky investments, I think things are on the back burner for the next 2 weeks. Okay, Capricorn, you are doing this solar eclipse in your house of intuition, your shadow self, that part of you that pulls from past lives, and also, where you could be addicted, where you could try to escape life and reality, but also where you put something out into the world and it goes viral on its own, where you have no control over it. So, and I could say that as this is the house of knowing what you can control and what you cannot control. So this eclipse really is about something happening in your life that is out of your control. And this is more like just recognizing that even though you're a soul on this spiritual journey, you're still in a body, and sometimes there are things in the way. I kind of picture, you're driving on a road and you come upon a rock slide. And so the rock slide hasn't taken you and tossed your car and you off the cliff, but it's there and it's in your way and you cannot pass. And so you may have to turn around and go back the way you've came, or you may have to try to find another route. And this can make you very impatient and very unhappy, because the sense is that you're on a schedule that, and oftentimes Capricorn can feel behind anyway. And so here you are just, feeling like you're making some progress. And then there is something in your way, whether that is, a broken refrigerator, a car that doesn't work, or somebody who said they were going to do something for you and then doesn't come through. So the overall message for you is to recognize what it is you cannot control. And then the other side of that is to realize that you do control quite a bit more than you think, and that is by visualizing the outcome that you want. You let the universe know how you want things to go by leaning into your lessons and leaning into the things that you need to learn, like how to go from fear to curiosity, how to go from procrastination to doing something mindfully. Those sort of things, when you're leaning into that, then the universe doesn't have to put a rock slide in your way. It doesn't have to break your refrigerator because you are already looking at what you need to learn. When it comes to your relationships, Saturn is making a sextile to the moon, which means that if you take an action, then you can have some really good relationship energy. And that could be friendships, a love relationship, a business partnership. And some of that is because with all those things in your hidden house, you have to take the action so people can find you. It's like if you're the boss and your door is closed, all the employees can stand outside the door and oh, we want to see the boss, but the door is closed. There's some sort of impediment to being seen. And so you take some action, you make the phone call, you send the text, and then things can flow. Now, when it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Mars, and it's up in the future and technology, as well as friendships and organizations. And it's actually moving to make a square to Jupiter, which is very nice because that's in your house of money. And so it's possible that the family is coming together to do something about the future, to say, let's pool our resources and do something, and that's going to actually lead to some sort of financial gain. But it also can be that friends are coming to see you and telling you about their opportunities, and that leads you to find opportunities for yourself and your family. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Uranus in your house of risky investments, which we'll talk about in a second. Uranus is making an inconjunct to this eclipse. But the eclipse energy is not on approach. It's actually past. And so just by 1 degree, but that means that whatever uncomfortable thing that you need to do to make money, you already know what it is. You've already started working on it. You're just now assimilating all the information or the processes so that you can get your system down. So if there is something where you're saying, well, I don't know what that is, go back 1 month, 2 months, 3 months when we started interacting with that Uranus and see what you were thinking of. What were you working on? What's the thing that you were doing, but you've dropped it because you got really busy, you started doing something else. So there definitely are opportunities, but it shows that those opportunities are somewhat still out of your comfort zone, and that if you can actively work on processing, either the procedure or how it works or how you're going to do it, like outlining it on your big board, your whiteboard that's hung on the wall that has all the little steps you're going to take. Doing something like that can get you ready to take action, and that action will line up pretty soon. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or income from your business or a family business, it's that same inconjunct that we were just talking about. It is that Uranus inconjunct Sun. And so think of Uranus as being innovation or technology or things that are new and exciting. And then the Sun here, sitting in Sagittarius in your hidden house, is you saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm going to need a PhD in this before I can move forward, which may or may not be true. So you might want to take the step to activate that house of intuition where the Sun is sitting, where you say to yourself, all right, if I knew what to do, what would it be? Or putting something to your angels or guides to say, look, I need a definite sign before I move forward, or, hey, can you work this out for me? Could you find somebody for me who's going to explain this? So this, I think, is a good way to work with this energy. Right now, you're not making more money than usual. You're going to make about the same as usual over this 2-week period. But, as you do, you have opportunities to set things in place to make more money in the future. And so that's how or why you tap into your intuition or your guides or angels to help you get to that next step. When it comes to money derived from career, that would be being paid by an employer. Uranus is not making an aspect to Pluto, and everything's buried in your 12th house. So even if other people are noticing and starting to notice the contribution that you're making and saying nice things about you, you are very, very focused on your own stuff and you're not really paying attention. Now, you can be mindful of that, but you're still not going to most likely receive the extra money in this 2-week period. It would be outside of that. But right now, there's just this energy that it's outside of your control, and you saying something's not really going to make a difference this time, so you might as well wait until this energy lines up. And then when it comes to risky investments, Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus, nor is it making an aspect to Saturn. But the interesting thing that Venus is doing is it is conjunct Pluto in your own sign. And so you may not be, able to grab hold of big profits over this next 2 weeks from a risky investment. You are certainly focused on it. You're quite obsessed about some aspect of an exotic investment or a leveraged investment or buying a business or doing something that is creative where you're putting information out into the world or art out into the world. So you're very, very focused on it. That's going to pay off later. So right now, you're not showing a lot of profits. You're more showing just complete concentration on either figuring this out or moving it forward. Okay, Aquarius, you guys are doing this solar eclipse in your area of friendships, community, technology, and the future. And so the things that we're seeing are a possibility for changing. Oh, and I forgot to mention money derived from career. We'll get to that one in a second. So, but what we're seeing is possible changes in your future, something maybe that is not happening right now, but you can see it happening down the road. Maybe that is with your company. Maybe you're seeing that your company's business model is not so viable for the technology future. Or, like maybe you're a truck driver and you know that self-driving trucks are going to happen at some point and you don't want to be a passenger, so you might be thinking about something there. This may be you looking at your attitudes about technology and making some adjustments. Maybe you are being forced by the universe to get into the digital age, or maybe you're recognizing that you're too tapped in, that you are too plugged in, and that you need to unplug for a little bit, give yourself a dopamine break so that you can hear the universe again. Sometimes if you constantly have the earbuds in, I was doing like a headphone pantomime there, but the little earbuds in, it's very very challenging for the universe to try to get between the earbud and your ear. And so if you are listening for messages from the universe, you want some periods of silence. So, and maybe those could be while you're walking or doing meditation, things like that. Now, this is also about your interaction with the community and friends in general. So with the community, you could look at whether you're in a group or organization and whether that's beneficial. Maybe you're in a board position and you don't want to do that anymore, or maybe want to run for a board position so that you can be a leader of the group. And then when it comes to your friends, you know what they say, how successful you'll be is you sum up your 5 closest friends, and that's pretty much the level you're going to be. So, is it necessary for you to cultivate new friendships, to find people that you really look up to who are going to challenge you? So are you the top person in your group? And so you're trying to pull everybody up with you. So this is the kind of things that this eclipse could bring. Now, when it comes to relationships, we talked already about the friendships, but this would also include love relationships or a business partnership or a mentor. Uranus is making an inconjunct to the sun. And you've heard me say an aspect between Uranus and the sun now for months. Every time we have a new moon, we've been hitting this. This is the last of the inconjuncts. And this inconjunct is actually separating, which means that whatever issues that you have, you do know what they are, and you're in the process of solving those. So if it's that you have been having trouble meeting someone, maybe because the pandemic locked everything down, now you're able to get out more. Or if you had some issues where you realized it wasn't the pandemic stopping you, but something inside of you, you're getting past that. But you're still at an uncomfortable place where you have to work at it, because inconjuncts are not that comfortable. And that means that you have to do something that's a little against the grain. Maybe that is initiating the connection, or maybe it's hanging back and waiting for them to initiate. So there is that energy, there's a connection because of the inconjunct, so something's going to happen, but you have to judge where you're uncomfortable and move into that place rather than just sticking with what you're comfortable with. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from Venus, which happens to be conjunct Pluto in your hidden house. So something is going on at home behind the scenes. You're quite focused on it. In fact, to a level of obsession where it's hard for you to think of something else. Now, maybe this is something where there's been a realization about something that happened very early in your life, and that was not positive, and so you're dealing with that. Maybe this is some sort of argument brewing, some sort of division of the family, or some sort of Hatfields and McCoys, like you're in a war with somebody else, a different part of the family. I guess Hatfields and McCoys would be two different families, so that wouldn't be a good analogy. But there's something where you're extremely focused, but the energy is quite hidden. So if you're stewing on something, you're doing it just, you're brooding about it on your own. So now it doesn't all have to be negative, although Venus conjunct Pluto isn't a soft, cuddly aspect. It does say let go of something and then things get better. And so this is a great time to use this energy to declutter basements, closets, attics, garages, anything that, again, by its nature is fairly hidden. So this is less about decluttering, the kitchen counter, and more about decluttering the cabinets that are really hard to reach into, where you have to get down on the floor and climb in there and grab the stuff. That's the type of decluttering that needs to happen. And as you do, you declutter the inner stuff from yourself as well. And that clears the path for this thing to, be cleared. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Neptune, which is in your house of money, as well as that Jupiter, which is just outside your house of money. And they play an interesting role in this eclipse because the eclipse is in Sagittarius and it's ruled by that Jupiter. And so there is something where, even though it's kind of remote, or even though it feels like things aren't necessarily, going from A to B to C, it's kind of taking this weird turn. There is an opportunity for you to pull in money opportunities. I wish there were more words for opportunities. There's this option for you to pull in money opportunities from multiple sources, and that is by thinking about what's going on in the community, thinking about what's going on in technology, thinking about where future trends are going, which, by the way, Aquarius, that's one of your skills, is to see trends. So, and looking at what's innovative, also something that Aquarius, your brain can handle innovation better than most, so that you can take hold of a new idea and say, okay, I'm going to find a way to apply that in my life. So this is saying here, there's ways for you to find money opportunities if you focus on those sort of futuristic technology or innovative ideas. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments like stocks and bonds, or from a business or a family business, Mercury's making a square to Neptune, so you have a lot of opportunities. Plus Neptune's in a money house, Mercury's in a money house. So it's, to me, when I look at the whole chart, it feels like either you are starting a business based on something that you used to do for a living working for somebody else, or you had a business and you're going to go work for somebody, so you get a regular paycheck, but you're doing kind of the same thing. So there's some opportunity to make more money, and this is also a possibility that in your investments, you are investing in industries that you either have worked for or you are working for currently. So definite ability to make more money over the next 2 weeks. So yeah. So that's great. When it comes to money derived from career, and that would be the money from a paycheck working for somebody else, you're doing Jupiter semi-sextile Neptune plus a house of money derived from career that is chock full of planets. South Node, which technically is not a planet, it's just a point, but Sun, Moon, and Mercury. And okay, yes, Sun and Moon are luminaries, but I call them planets. So anyway, boy, I'm really digressing. You're doing the semi-sextile, and with that house so full of positive goodness, there is such an opportunity for you to make more money from your regular job, either through more hours, a promotion, an increase in pay, changes in your commission percentage. Any of these things could bring you something. Mars is in your house of career, so you could even get a new job and then negotiate a better salary. So this is really a time to lean in, and plus it's an eclipse. That's a time where lots of people do change jobs, which means there are more openings right now. So you want to take advantage of this. And then when it comes to money from risky investments, and these are the things, like cryptocurrencies or NFTs or things that you would have to sit your grandma down and explain to her, and it would take a really long time and probably multiple pieces of pie. So Mercury is making a square to Neptune, so you have some real opportunities to gain some profits or to gain a real foothold in this, whatever it is. And now it's interesting because the eclipse is in that house of future and technology, and oftentimes these risky investments do involve technology. And so that might be that you're making a breakthrough of understanding where you've finally, you've done all the primers on it, you've done the tutorials, and now you really could explain this to multiple people, and so you're ready to step in. But it's also possible that, you are selling a business, and because you're reaching out to the community, you have opportunities to connect with others and sell your business. So really good money opportunities for you this period. Okay, Pisces, you guys are doing this solar eclipse right in your house of career at the top of your chart, and this indicates there could be some major changes in your career over the next 6 months. So the first thing to do is to ask yourself whether you're staying. I mean, if you already posted your resume, you know that you could get a new job possibly as early as the next 2 weeks. But even if you don't, you're in the flow of it. So that's great. But if you have been saying, I'm going to stay at this company, you need to really take a hard look at whether your company is going to still be there. With so many changes with technology and, just it's a long story, but when Pluto goes through a sign, it really transforms that energy, and it's been going through Capricorn for a long time, and Capricorn rules corporations, and so this is why we see so many big corporations that maybe have been around for hundreds of years, or at least 100 years, and now they're not here anymore. Like I drove by Sears today. I mean, Sears, hundreds of years old, and I think they're totally gone now. I don't know for sure, but it looks very closed up. So I've digressed here. Oh yes, so in this, if you are thinking to stay in your job, it's time to look at the viability of your company or your industry to see if you can get some clues about whether this industry is going to be there in 6 months from now, or even if it's going to go away in a couple of years, you might want to get out in the next 6 months. The eclipse elevated in your chart also reminds you about your reputation, and that is what you're putting out there on social media. Now, maybe you're a person who doesn't do any social media at all, and so then this is more of a focus on job, or maybe you are toying with the idea of doing some social media. But if you are playing with social media in a fast and loose way, in other words, doing things that are quite controversial, but they are easy to be found by a boss or somebody that you want to work for, maybe that it's time for you to rethink that strategy. When it comes to relationships, you have some good energy because Mercury is making a square to Neptune, and this means that you could easily come together with someone you find quite fascinating or who looks up to you. Because you have so many of the planets elevated, it's quite easy for you to find somebody who thinks that you're amazing, that you're doing well, that you have great potential, things like that. So you might want to, do your online profile, that's you getting into social media, or tell your friends and families that you want to date. This is also extends to friendships as well as business partnerships, or, finding a mentor. So this is all lined up, and it says something's going to happen over this next 2 weeks. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Mercury that is elevated. So you're doing something at home that is really easy to see from other people. So that could mean that you have recently moved, and when you move, you're very noticeable, on another plane, on the spiritual plane, you are so seen. And so when you move, that's, all these people come out of the woodwork who you haven't heard from in a long time, and they want to get together, etc. So it's that, but also there's something going on at home that is pushing you out into the limelight. Maybe you have a business at home, maybe your kid is becoming a star at school, or there's something that is elevating you and making you more visible. When it comes to your money, you're pulling energy from Mars, which is in your house of education, and it's really quickly moving to hit your midheaven, which will start its journey through your house of career. So your time of learning and studying is coming to an end. Now, if you still have a couple of years in school, it may be that you're getting some sort of internship, and that's going to take you into a more practical part of your schooling. If you are, though, thinking about, going back to school, you need to maybe look at something that's more accelerated so that you don't spend a lot of time focusing on education, but more on, really getting the knowledge you need and getting to the actual practical part. Now, additionally, this could mean that you are pulling money from import-export, which would probably mean that all your stuff is stuck off of the coast here on one of those ships I can see, or that you are expanding your business somehow through some legal matters, like, you're signing the actual agreement, or you're incorporating, or things like that. I'm gonna stop saying "or things like that." I'm gonna try anyway. So you're pulling money, though, from this elevated place. So that means that when you are pulling money, or you want to pull money, you do it from a place of being very visible. And so that can really help you find opportunities. When it comes to money from traditional investments, or a family business, or your own business, Mars is doing a sextile to Venus. So if you'll take the initial action, money flows in. That is, you do the campaign, or you call the customer, or you check your stocks or your bonds, you call your broker and say, hey, what's the scoop? You take an action, and then just benefits flow in. When it comes to money derived from career, and this is a paycheck from an employer, Mars is not making an aspect to Saturn. You do, though, have Venus and Pluto conjunct in that house, so you're quite focused on some aspect of this, but you're not necessarily able to get it to budge. And the Pluto is suggesting that you let go of something, and then things can move. Now, it's not necessarily that you're letting go of a job, although you do have amazing career energy happening here. It may be that you're letting go of a position or an aspiration within that that company, or maybe you're letting go of a grudge with a manager. Maybe you're just decluttering your home office. But when you let go of something, it will free up some of the energy. But otherwise, you're making about the same as usual in this area over the next 2 weeks. And when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, the things like starting a YouTube channel or doing something where it may unfold over a long period of time, but it's quite risky, which would be the things, like the Bitcoins out there, that they haven't really been accepted by the mainstream. I'm kind of wondering when I'm going to be needing to shift that into traditional investments, probably when there's something even wilder and crazier than Bitcoin. That'll probably be it. But long story short, Moon is not making an aspect to Mars, and so you're not showing a lot of profits. You're showing great information, opportunities for sure, but the profits are outside the 2-week period. So keep doing your studies, keep connecting with people on whatever it is that you're trying to learn or do. You're going to see some light at the end of the tunnel in this 2-week period, but the profits themselves are not showing up quite yet. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. Please hit the like button, as that helps this video go out to more people. And stay tuned, because LaRue wants to say hi.